Only on NBC5 News, Commissioner Doug Breidenthal says Jackson County officials filed their complaint against him just weeks after he filed a re-election bid, and he doesn't think that's a coincidence.
That's just one of the details revealed in NBC5's exclusive long-form interview with the commissioner. Tonight, Breidenthal discusses the expense accounts that are being investigated and the trips and meals he used to help him secure votes. In a statement, you said that Danny Jordan, the county administrator, directed staff to file this complaint. Why would he do that?
I could not understand that at all. At the time, I believed that the administrator had directed staff to go ahead and file the complaint. And even today, things don't quite line up for me completely. If everybody knew about this in 2014, and I had gone to everybody to vet this out at the county level, and everybody knew it was going to be an AOC account, that the county would not have this money, because it was private contributions to run for a national office. With that being said, why was this complaint all of a sudden recognized 2 to 3 weeks after I filed for re-election? All of a sudden everybody goes, oh, we didn't know anything about this.
That's the first time I've heard you mention that re-election.
When I had filed for my re-election, and then just a couple of weeks later, all of a sudden this complaint and everything just blows up. I don't understand the timing of it. It seems coincidental at best.
And I should say, when I mentioned that you said Danny Jordan, you believe that he's perhaps behind this, that the county auditor, Eric Spivak, says he and he alone filed this complaint. He wasn't directed to do so.
Well, here's an example. Here's kind of where I still believe that this is more than just the auditor. If the auditor was acting alone, the auditor would be held accountable appropriately when the mistakes were made or inaccuracies. Now, the auditor made mistakes in his audit. The paper reported on basically what the auditor had written.
Mail Tribune?
Correct. The Mail Tribune had written articles based on what the auditor had written.
As we all have.
Right. The problem is the auditor was incorrect with some of his information. When I read some of the Mail Tribune articles, I said, this isn't true. I'm not being investigated for $73,000 worth of travel by the Ethics Commission or Department of Justice. This is ludicrous. And then I looked at further things and I said, you don't even have travel dates right. You're saying I did this or did this. This is all inaccurate. And then the Tribune basically said, well, this is basically what the auditor told us. So I had to go back to the county. I had to go to and pull the records and provide those records to the auditor to show that the mistakes were made. And then at that point he admitted to those mistakes and had written some information to try to counter that. But really the Tribune has really not covered it to the extent in which it should be covered. So this is a good opportunity to talk about that.
But I understand as part of the running for the WIR and I guess eventually the AOC, you were given a debit card for the account by the AOC, is that correct?
Well, we had to pay for the expenses, correct.
Okay, what type of expenses would those be?
Well, what happened here, we had a national campaign. The campaign was actually focused on the voting delegates for the Western Interstate region. We had one individual from 15 states that was able to vote. So in Alaska, that's where the election was held, and we brought staff to there.
Who's staff?
Well, staff was Gil Riddell from the Association of Oregon Counties, and it was decided by the collective campaign management team that my wife should go as the other staff member.
Okay.
So
as your staff, not AOC staff.
Correct.
Okay.
As the staff for the campaign, because the campaign itself paid for that. The transportation for everybody.
And when you say the campaign itself, we're referring to the funds we were talking about earlier, roughly $11,000.
Right. About $12,000, give or take. So that is the part that is being looked at here. It's just that campaign contributions and expenditures. Mm-hmm. We held receptions in Alaska. We took some people to dinner. We did some things that we trying to secure the votes, that type of stuff.
Yeah, at a hospitality room. I don't have this in front of me, but there's bartender fee, crab cakes. I mean, it sounded pretty nice.
Yeah, if you know, it wasn't too bad, but it wasn't extravagant like everybody said it was. If you've ever been to Alaska and had to pay for food, things are very high priced.
And what about I believe it was January, where you filed an amended expense report? $1,700, give or take. What happened there?
That's because when we did the expenses, I was told or advised that I didn't have to report those things because the Association of Oregon Counties had a letter saying that you didn't have to do this type of stuff.
So the AOC told you didn't have to report.
Yeah, and because everything that has been done under this campaign is a standard of practice for elected officials across the state. So that's why I'm sort of looking forward to this process coming and getting through this deal, because there are about a dozen elected officials right now that I can think of on the top of my head, that I'll leave nameless at the moment, that have run for national offices or regional offices using this exact same technique. The Ethics Commission, when I met with them, they recognized that case, and they said that this is going to be a test case for the state of Oregon, because this is a standard of practice. So nothing, if this was done under Oregon campaign finance law, everything that was done would be completely legal and normal.
So you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, so you're saying because of that, you're able to take money from organizations like the Cow Creek or the Coquell or Murphy or so on, like the list we did, that you're able to take money from those organizations?
Well, they're still put into a campaign account. And then you have to look at a whole different set of different laws, and that's the Oregon ethics laws. And we took a look at those and basically said, okay, because we're running for a professional organization.
Right. It's not a public office.
It's not a public office. It's a professional organization of public officials. Because you're running for that, there's some exclusions under the ethics law that says you're allowed to take those donations. They're not considered under the same laws that anybody would ever, you could take the other money. So it basically excludes that, and that's how you run those campaigns.
So with all this travel, with this ongoing investigations, since there are two of them, how is your relationship with your fellow commissioners, Rick Dyer and Colleen Roberts? It was a couple months ago you were stripped of your chairmanship, and as a result of these investigations ongoing.
Well, the chairmanship stripping, I think, was a miscommunication a little bit. They were under the impression of certain things, may or may not be the case to the day. I really don't know. I was not privileged to the conversations between them and the administrator, because that happened behind closed doors. When I pressed on and asked the question, how much communication have you had with the administrator on this subject? The response I got was, we've had so many meetings, I can't count them.
You all have many meetings with
well,
the
no, they were
administrator, do you not?
individually.
Well, I understand that's what you're saying, but
Right.
I mean, commissioners meet with the administrator often, is that true?
Part of the piece that they had actually cited as to why was that I had sent out information to their personal email addresses. And that, to me, was part of my campaign piece. My campaign sending out information,
office between
they were
re-election.
saying, we want you to send it from your official site. Well, I'm not going to send it from my official government county site, because that's not proper. If I'm running for office, it should come from my campaign.
And coming up tomorrow, as our exclusive interview continues, Commissioner Breidenthal says if he is not reelected to the Board of Commissioners next month, he will consider filing a lawsuit against Jackson County.
Yeah, very much so. Because I honestly believe this was a smear campaign tactic to be able to weaken me in this election process.
That's Friday, only on NBC5 News at 6.